And here we go. Digital Adel back with another Hoops Profile Beyond the Backboard podcast for you. And I am on the road today. We got the laptop going. We got the different headset. So for the people listening on all the podcast streams like Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, anywhere podcasts are found, you can find us. I may sound slightly different to you. The YouTube audience will be able to understand why, because they'll see that I have a headset on and I'm traveling from DC through Pennsylvania and back, avoiding the hurricane. It's not the reason I left, but just so happened that's when my vacation was, and got lucky to dodge that. And so really quick before we get this thing started, I just wanted to give a big shout out to the people of Florida and hope everybody is staying safe. This Hurricane Milton, it looks like it's going to be a freaking monster. So hopefully if you're in the Tampa area, anywhere on that West Coast, you're able to get out of there. And if you're staying, I hope you're hunkered down and safe. I got, some of my family is still down there as well. Where I live, and we got the storm shutters across, the hurricane shutters and all of that. So we are going to, just keep you in our thoughts and prayers, and I hope everybody, property, their lives and all of that, make it out okay. Worst comes to worst, just property gets destroyed. I hope everybody is okay and safe and nobody is harmed. So we are going to talk today with my co-host, Matt Haney Fan. Whenever he jumps back on here, we're going to talk about the Denver Nuggets. And this is our rookies only segment, and we're going to talk about the Denver Nuggets 22nd overall draft pick, Deron Holmes II out of Dayton. He's the big man. He was a really phenomenal prospect for them, and specifically for what they needed in terms of somebody that would be able to give some nice big man minutes to spell Nikola Jokic whenever that time came. He was an older player, so I figured that he would be able to contribute right away, but he unfortunately got hurt. And before we get into the details and minutia of that, I just wanted to give a big introduction to our co-host, Matt Haney Fan.
What's going on? How's it going?
It's going awesome, man. I was on the plane, had the whole row to myself, cruising around DC earlier in the week, and now I'm in Pennsylvania, just living life, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Are you an aisle guy or a window guy? Or are you middle seat?
Definitely not a middle seat guy. I'm antisocial as all get out, man. I'm a window guy. I get my neck pillow thing so I can just lay against the wall, and I freaking try to sleep the whole time. What about you?
Oh, see, I'm a window guy too, but I'm always fascinated.
Yeah.
I'm just looking what's 25, 30,000 feet below me for some reason. I don't know. I like the views.
It's a great view. I mean, I used to be that way, but then I've flown so much that I'm like, I've seen all the clouds.
Yeah.
But no, man, that's cool, dude. Like, yeah, I like the window seat. I didn't have a particularly great TSA experience this time around. Like, I have TSA pre-check so I can breeze right through. And like, for some reason they, I don't know. I'm not saying why, but anyway, I just got a little hassled for no reason, and I was a little irritated. But anyway, let's talk Deron Holmes, man. Let's talk about the Denver Nuggets and their guy, and we're going to talk a little Trey Alexander afterwards as well. They're undrafted because Deron Holmes unfortunately got injured in preseason, and he's going to be out for the remainder of the year. We liked Deron Holmes in our pre-draft process. He has a lot of polish to him as an older player. He had really developed his outside shot. He was at like 16% on really low volume his first year, and then he started creeping up into like the low 30s, and then he ended at like 38% his last season at Dayton. And that's a big skill set that he's going to need to be able to translate in today's pace and space NBA, because he's not like a 7'4", 7'11" wingspan Zach Edey. He's a more undersized, like 6'11", center type. What are your thoughts on Deron Holmes, the second?
The NBA's transition to, I think, more teams. I mean, we saw it with Boston. They were like the biggest, case study of this. But the NBA is transitioning into more of a 5-out like style. And Deron Holmes really fits that well, in just the sense of like his skill set that you talked about, like the shooting. Like he was 14%, then 32%, and then finished at 39% on relatively low volume. And then in summer league, he played in 26 minutes before he unfortunately tore his Achilles. But he was 3 of 3 from deep, 4 of 8 from the floor. So, and you saw that. Like I think his shot was pretty pure in that sense. Like to me in summer league, it looked smoother, it looked more fluid than it did his last year at Dayton. And then with that, like he just looks athletic. Like he looked more athletic to me during summer than he did his last year at Dayton. Like to me, he looked more spry. And him being at 6'9", 6'10", like I thought he was going to be a player that was going to get like real legitimate minutes behind Nikola Jokic. And I think that's why they traded up and drafted him. Because they traded up, I want to say, like 5 or 6 spots to get him. And he was someone who was linked to them a lot during the pre-draft process. So it wasn't like a secret that they liked him. And so it's just really unfortunate how that happened. I thought he was a solid defensive player. Obviously, his last year at Dayton, he was one of the better shot blockers without fouling. Like he just didn't foul that much. I don't think that was going to necessarily translate to the NBA level, but it's something that you like. It's something you like when you turn on the tape. I thought his processing speed improved his last year at Dayton. Like him, he was getting doubled a lot in the post, the mid post, low post, whatnot. He was making the right plays. He was making the right passes. It wasn't always perfect, but it was better than it was, his sophomore year, his freshman year. And so you saw growth. Like he pretty much improved almost in every conceivable way when he was at Dayton his last year. And I think you saw glimpses of that when, again, in this 26-minute sample. And again, really unfortunate how that happened. I'm hoping he's able to bounce back. Achilles injuries for guys who are his size, there's just not a great track record, but he's still a really young player. Even though he was an older player when he got drafted, he's a young player in general. And so I think he'll be able to recover from it. But yeah, those are just kind of my thoughts. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, you make a lot of great points about his ability to stretch the floor. And whenever you look at like how a player will translate from college to the NBA, even at Dayton, to me, he looked a lot more comfortable facing up. Even when he was in the low block or in the mid post, he looked a lot more comfortable facing up rather than just backing people down. He doesn't have a lot of like super fluid and slick post moves. His jump hook is okay. His left hand is okay. It was very laborious and like just not really smooth in terms of it, fluidity with his moves in the low post. Now, being in college, he could get away with that. In the NBA, I think he's going to be a lot more, like you said, of a stretch 5. He's going to be able to hit the 3 ball. He's going to be able to take those elbow jumpers, those above the break jumpers, space to the corner. He's going to be able to do those things. And he was going to be able to contribute right away, I believe, to back up Nikola Jokic. That was one of the things I said right before your introduction, was that I figured he was going to be able to get minutes right away, backing up Nikola Jokic, just in a different way, because Jokic is just so proficient in almost every aspect of the game. He's not going to be able to, of course, replicate even a fourth of that, to be honest. But he'll be able to give you the stretch 5 aspect, some rebounding. I think in the NBA, I know you said he looked more athletic in that first summer league game. I am of the personal belief, just looking at like the way his hips are and like his ability to change directions, he's going to be more of a positional defender and use his 6'10", 6'11" length. He'll block a few shots, but I don't think he's going to be this all-world shot blocker at the next level. I think it's going to be more positional. But that's all the Nuggets really need. They just need somebody so that Jokic can get a rest and they don't have a big drop-off, because that's the goal in the NBA, right? When you have your second unit, you don't want there to be a precipitous drop-off between the starting unit and that second unit. So as long as you have somebody that's capable, can stress the defense in a five-out fashion, the way the NBA is trending, I think he was going to be very valuable to the Denver Nuggets. Now, with that being said, they didn't have any other draft picks. They traded up to get him. They were out of draft picks. And a lot of teams are harvesting these second-round draft picks, since now you got to pay a penalty whenever you pay cash for these second-round picks. So the undrafted signing of Trey Alexander made it all the more valuable for the Denver Nuggets. And I was up and down on his evaluation throughout the process in college. I know the Miami Heat were scouting Trey Alexander. People were high on him. I was probably higher on him in the first half of the season than I was the second half of the college season. He's really inconsistent. But my biggest takeaway his entire time in college was that there are stretches of games in college where he would just disappear. You wouldn't even know he's on the floor. He'd have good stat lines by the end of the game, but a lot of his meaningful and impactful stats would only come in spurts and usually wasn't in crunch time. And so that tells you a lot about the competitiveness and willingness to fight when there's adversity. And so as the process went on, I become less and less enamored with Trey. His summer league, he played a lot better than he did in the NBA Combine, because in the Combine, he just looked like an average Joe, man. He looked like any other player out there, didn't really look confident in what he was doing, where he was defending, shooting, rebounding. He didn't look confident at all in any of those aspects. And then you get into Summer League, and he starts putting up a bunch of numbers. They give him a lot of usage, a lot of on-ball usage. And I think that's where his value comes in at, is when he can actually do a variety of different things outside having to be the main scoring option, where he can facilitate, initiate a little bit of offense, come off of the P&R, because he's really good in that mid-range. And so when defenders have to guard the three-point shot and the mid-range, it allows you to get all the way to the basket. And so he did a really good job taking advantage of that usage in those P&Rs. So I'm still not sold on him as a competitor. I'm interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, no, like I was really impressed with some of the just as a whole, kind of to your point. Like I thought when he was running the show offensively, I mean, you did see a little bit of everything. You did see like the pull up creation, the shot creation that he possesses. You saw some of the stuff. Like there were some times where I was watching him and like he was, not initiating, but like coming off screens and playing off ball a little bit. And I think I was more impressed with that than what I saw with him off the ball when he was at Creighton in that offense. And so like he was handling in the pick and roll a little bit. He was doing a little bit of everything in that way. And so but like what my biggest question is defensive. Like maybe, I mean, he's on a two-way contract, and so maybe that they're not going to rely on him much at the NBA level this upcoming season. Maybe it's like 2 or 3 years down the line, even though he was really good. But defensively, like I just want to know how a guy like him holds up. Like he does have a long wingspan. I want to say it's like +6 wingspan or +7, something like that. But he's just not like a big guy. I never was really impressed with him defensively in college, and to your point, with the not even like I'm not even going to say it's like a motor thing, but like the competitiveness of playing defense and just competitiveness in general. Like I did have that same concern to some extent. So I'm interested to see how he holds up there defensively, just at an NBA level against NBA level athletes. Like I thought he was okay in summer, but like I just want to see more of that development, more of that growth, because I think that's what they're going to ask of him when he's on the floor. Maybe not like a 3D guy, but I do think they want him to be like at least average defensively. If you're going to share a backcourt with like Jamal Murray or someone of that ilk. So that's just my question. I thought, again, offensively, I thought he was really, really good in summer. Shot 48% from deep, 53% from the floor. I wonder how consistent that will be, just because there is like a steady mid-range, steady pull-up diet, and like that can, you know, that's a little bit more like topsy-turvy, where you can be great for a few game stretch, but then you could also, it's not the most reliable, consistent shot diet. But he did pop to me just offensively, and I do think he was one of the better guards that we saw in summer. So at least he had that going for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And whenever you talk about that ability to create in the mid range and pull up and play off ball and have to be able to play defense, it's a championship level team. They have championship aspirations every year that they're going to have Jokic and Murray together. So he's going to have to be able to fit in as a role player and not a on ball usage, type of guy. He's not going to get usage like that. So my question is, can he be consistent in that role where he's on low volume, has to do all the dirty work, rebound, he has to play defense, he has to get assists, and he has to hit shots immediately. He can't warm up to it. He can't just get a bunch of on-ball reps to get warmed up and get going. So it's going to be very interesting to see if he can claw his way onto the bottom of that roster, or is he going to end up in the G League with that two-way contract. So I'm interested in that. Really disappointed with the Deron Holmes news, but Denver's already loaded with their talent. So in the grand scheme of things, I really don't see him making as big of an impact or deal to this team, especially when they already have other guys that are in the pipeline, like that Julian Strother. I never pronounce his name right. But he's really good, man. And he's been in that pipeline for 2 or 3 years now. And he's a knockdown shooter. He's electric when it comes to being able to shoot the ball, and he's dynamic in that way. So I think Denver's going to be okay with or without Trey. The question is, can he do enough, catch their eye, keep their attention to keep him out of the G League this year?
Yeah, and they're going to rely on Strother. They're going to rely on Christian Brown. They're going to rely on Peyton Watson this year just without KCP.
Yep.
And so there might be a time during a point in the season where they rely on Trey Alexander for, maybe not, I'm not saying 20, 25 minutes a game, but there might be 10, 15 minutes of spurts off the bench where he is playing with a guy like Jamal Murray to kind of initiate and lead the offense. So that may happen. I don't know. It just depends on injuries. It depends on a lot of things, just how the rotation shakes out. I think he will play some games. I don't know how many, but I do think there will be a point in time in the season where they rely on him for a brief stretch. But that's a far out prediction, because again, a lot can happen over an 82-game season. And I do trust that when he is on the floor, he will be put in positions to succeed, because he is playing with the best player on the planet, who's great. And that same thing applies to Peyton Watson. That same thing applies to Christian Brown, to Strother, in obviously different ways. But I think they're set up to succeed to some extent because they're playing with Nikola Jokic. I think that matters a lot.
No, you hit the nail on the head. It doesn't matter which one of those role player pieces the Denver Nuggets end up relying on. It all works because of Jokic and Murray. The other pieces will be able to be put in those good positions to succeed. Jokic drawing all the attention. Murray, whenever he gets in his pick and rolls, is going to draw all the attention. So there's definitely going to be opportunities. The question is, will there be injuries that cause an opportunity to present itself for him? That's the big question in my mind. I don't really see a way of him playing himself in front of the other two guys. They're already too ingrained in the pipeline for that, in my opinion. Let the people know where they can find you, follow you, and get more of your work.
At MPH_84. MountainWestConnection.com. Obviously, watch playback for 5 Reasons Sports. Watch playback.tv. So please go check all that out. We'll be going live for preseason games. We'll be going live for regular season games, and then everything else in between. Yeah, man, I'm all over the place.
Absolutely. I can't wait to, work with you more on the 5 Reasons Sports Network on Playback. Read all of his work, like he said, on all of those places and social media sites. I'm Digital Adel. You can find me under that moniker on wherever you happen to be for social media. Hoops Profile, Beyond the Backboard is the podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. I'll see you next time.